Mark, it's happened again. I don't know how, but there's another Evil Bong movie out. And for whatever reason, I don't know what pact we made with the devil or each other, but we're talking about Evil Bong, not just Evil Bong 8. This is a trend that started 2 movies ago with Evil Bong 666, because of course, and then Evil Bong 777 when they go to Vegas. Now we have Evil Bong 888 Infinity High.
Yeah,
Which,
because if you turn the 8 sideways, it's the infinity sign. See?
right. But here's the thing, like, I don't understand the high part, because when I saw this, I'm like, oh no, they're not going to high school, are they? This is like Evil Bong 90210, but which I would rather be talking about, honestly. But no, we are back, continuing the quote unquote proud tradition of discussing Charles Band's Opus series, written by Charles Band and uh, co-written by Kent Roadbush. I hope that's a stage name.
I imagine that's a stage name. That's just someone who's like, I don't want my real name on this. Can I put a pseudonym? No, really, Charles, can I put a pseudonym on this?
Like, no, your name is perfect for our company, Full Moon Pictures. So, Mark, welcome back. By the way, we talked about a real movie, Singing in the Rain, last month, and now we're here to talk about Evil Bong 8.
Well, I mean, it's a tradition. We're completionists. That's my battle cry. I'm a completionist when I watch these, and it was I think it was one of my first times on your podcast where you're talking about Evil Bong 5.
Wow. But here's the thing, like, when you mentioned that Evil Bong 8 was out, I first thought, are we fighting? Like, why did you bring this into my life? What happened?
Why did you let me know this exists?
Seriously, I had no clue. And I'm disappointed, because I feel like in the past this has been like an April thing, like 420. Was the post-production delayed? They had to make sure Evil Bong 8 was just right before they unleashed it on the world. That's obviously not the case based on the results. But
I don't know. Maybe it's Charles Band. He, COVID might have delayed it.
Yeah, COVID. Anyway, you can blame COVID for many things, but not this movie. So, Mark, I'm going to turn this back around on you, because you always like to have me do it.
Yeah.
Would you like to provide the synopsis for Evil Bong 8 Infinity High?
See, you shouldn't word it like would I like to. You should just say, Mark, why don't you give the synopsis of Evil Bong 888?
Because then you're going to say because I don't want to, and then it'll be back on me.
give me no choice, but just tell me, why don't you? Okay, so Evil Bong 888. Rabbit, our man Rabbit, Sonny Carl Davis. Apparently he inherited money from a nephew he didn't know about, and inherited a bunch of money. And he used that money to open up a cafe in LA. And it's opening night, and he has a special chef, as you might expect, in the kitchen. And I'm not talking about the German fellow who is the cook. No, the chef, of course, is Evie. But she's promised to behave and not try to take over the world, at least to Rabbit. Meanwhile, Rabbit's struggling on trying to be on the up and up and be legitimate, while, struggling to keep his tendencies to smoke the ganj at bay. But it's opening night and things aren't going well already. And enter in Diana Prince as Thomasina Atkins, or as people call her, Tom. Yes, Tom Atkins. Nod to Tom Atkins. There you go.
Again, does Charles Band hate Tom Atkins? I mean, like, this is part in joke, but I'm like, what is going on here?
I have no idea. But yes, Diana Prince, who is also the male girl from Joe Bob, which is probably one of the reasons why he cast her in here. One of 3 reasons. Anyway, sorry, couldn't resist. But
wait, is this the male girl?
That's male girl. Yeah, that's Diana Prince. She is the mature film actress / male girl, and actress in other films, including this one.
I must confess, I am familiar with Joe Bob Briggs as a pop
Mm,
cultural icon, a titan, if you will. But I
yes.
think in the 35 years I've been aware of him, I've seen maybe 3 minutes of him.
Wow.
And a lot of that has been cameos and things. I just never
Mm.
kind of got the Joe Bob Briggs thing. Although, no, that's not true. He did an audio commentary for I Spit on Your Grave, which
Oh,
was phenomenal.
I don't think I've heard that one. I'll have to listen to that because he's the kind of the reason why I got thought about doing movie reviews. So and while I'm not oh my god, I gotta watch it on Shutter, because one, I don't have Shutter, and two, he's grown a huge fan base. I used to watch him and his original show, oh, I forgot the name of it now. But I forgot a
Is
lot
it
of things
Joe
today.
Bob Briggs Drive-In Theater or
Yeah,
whatever? Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, it was Monster Madness. It was yeah, it was, I believe it was called Monster Madness. His show on USA, his new show is the Drive-In Theater.
Okay.
In any case, though, I remember watching a few of those and really enjoying them. I don't actively seek his stuff out, so I'm sure people on the internet would say, well, you're not a fan. No, I am a fan, because I remember reading in an review of an article about him. I think it was in a National Lampoon issue that I found in my dad's stack of magazines, and I
And
read
that's the
that.
one you went for?
Okay, there was a stack of magazines. I'm not saying what kind. Thank you for implying that. I mean, it was, but thank you for implying. You've been talking to me too long. You know me. Anyway, I did find this one, and I found this whole article about how he was reviewing B movies and some movies that I watched when I was too young to be watching them, but still B movies, horror movies, and that, and how he rated them. And I found it fascinating, because all I had known up until that point was like Siskel and Ebert, thumbs up and down, and mainstream stuff. I didn't realize, holy crap, people review B movies too,
Right.
but it was kind of a new thing for him. Not a lot of people were reviewing cult and B movies and the low, the that type of cinema. So I found that fascinating. And so years later, that's kind of what inspired me to be a reviewer. But back to this, Tom Atkins, played by Diana Prince. Don't think too hard about that. She becomes the hostess. Go figure, because Lecherous Rabbit wants her there. She's like,
she's the mater double
D, and she is like a foot taller than him, because she is a tall person. And and so he's worried about people showing up. And then there's a concern because, oh no, he thought Evie was going to order the food, and Evie thought he was going to order the ingredients. So all there left is French baguettes and baked beans. So
they're beanie weenies, sir.
They're beanie weenies. Excuse me. Yes, there's beanie weenies and a French baguette bread is what they have in the kitchen. So they modify the menu and they start having people come in. First comes in 3 influencers, and then it becomes a No Way Home of the Charles Band universe, as many of previous characters we've seen not only in Evil Bong films, but pretty much anywhere in the Charles Band universe show up, including my girl, Robin Sidney. Yeah,
Yes.
so happy to see her show up, and Cody Renee Cameron, because if you haven't seen the Barbie and Kendra shows, I've only watched one, but I was actually very impressed by it. And I think Robin Sidney is like, she is a very talented actress, and I have no idea why she keeps doing these films, but she was a highlight. But as you can imagine, things ensue, and EB gets involved because Rabbit's like, oh no, what are we going to do with weenie beans and baguettes? And so she works weed into it, because of course, and it makes everybody happy and horny and loving the beanie weenies and the baguettes. But more hilarity and hijinks ensue. And
Wait,
yeah,
I thought we were talking about Evil Bong 8, Mark.
yeah. Well,
You watched a movie with hilarity and hijinks?
It's supposed to be, you can tell that's what they intended some of those scenes to be. So but at the end, and I'm going to spoil it for you folks, because this is supposedly the last chapter. Evie gets frustrated and teleports everybody back to Weedland, where they're going to live forever with Darnell, who showed up in here at one point. And There's stoner ghosts, cops, and newer
Rednecks,
people,
yeah.
rednecks. They're newer people from newer Charles Band shows. Like I said, Kendra and Barbie, though Robin Sidney's been a staple in this series for a long time. Libby Higgins, who was in the Baby Oopsie series, which started up in Charles Band, Full Moon Galaxy. There's a Baby Oopsies and Baby Oopsies 2, I believe. And yeah, and the crack whore and Joe Cracker and Redderneck, as they're called, that's their names, folks. They've been in the previous 4 or 5, actually, Evil Bong films.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know if we talked about this in the last one. I feel like we might. So please stop me if I'm boring you, but we got to have something to cling on to here. The guy who played Joe Cracker, Circus Zaleski.
yes.
Did I tell you that I actually sort of knew him?
I think you mentioned it. I think that was mentioned on last podcast. I don't quite remember, but
when I went to art school back in 1995.
1995.
I took life drawing classes, and he was a nude model. I have drawings of that guy naked from almost 30 years ago in my portfolio.
Little deep secret. I was a life drawing model for a while. I was young and needed the money.
Really?
Actually, yeah, I was young and I needed the money.
Wow. See, Mark, this is now I'm going to have my own Patreon show. And we're going to get into the deep, dark secrets of Mark's life drawing model career and tech support.
Yeah.
For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, Mark and I spent the first half hour of this conversation talking about computers. But no, that's wow. Okay. Did you ever run into Circus?
No, I did. No? I did not. No.
Okay.
No, but $75 for 2 hours of standing there naked. Okay.
Say, are there pictures from this?
No, but there's probably a few drawings maybe out there. I don't know.
I can modify the cliche: sketches or it didn't happen.
Sketches or it didn't.
But anyway, back to let's pull over and talk about Robin Sidney, as I feel like we do every time we have these shows.
We do,
because again, I still don't understand. Maybe it's because, and this is no fault of hers or Charles Band's, but I wonder if it's kind of like a stigma of like porn. Like once you're in a future
Charles Band's films,
you're not going to get legit in Hollywood. And I think that's a crime, because I wasn't familiar with Barbie and Kendra, you know, and I don't think you have to be necessarily, although the fact that one of the guys from Tiger King shows up.
Right. Cause that's from their second movie. The first movie was Barbie and Kendra versus the COVID zombies, in which he got footage from an original like Italian, because I was like, what? Like a 1985 Italian zombie film. And it was kind of a horror host type of thing, to where they redubbed the dialogue and made a different movie out of it, but leading to COVID and zombies. And Kendra and Barbie, they didn't get any scenes together, obviously, because social distancing. This was during the height of the pandemic, so they recorded their scenes from their own places. You could tell that these folks were setting up and recording Robin Sidney and Cody. And I haven't seen the other two, but then right after that, the follow-up was Barbie and Kendra save the Tiger King. And that's where they get the Tiger King guy involved, the actual Tiger King guy. And then there was, 2 years ago, just before the pandemic really exploded, they did Barbie and Kendra raid on Area 51, where they apparently went after aliens. Now, I haven't seen the other two, but if it follows suit to the COVID zombies one, I suspect they took actual footage from other movies and either dubbed them or whatever, and worked it into, kind of did additional footage, a la inserting Lloyd Kaufman into every film in Trauma, kind of that way. But I want to actually see those other two, because I'm curious, because again, Robin Sidney and even Cody Renee Cameron as Barbie. I mean, they're the two, when they show up, it's like acting. Wow, there's people acting as like real characters,
and they are, unlike the other very attractive women in this show, this movie, quote unquote film, they don't have to take their tops off. They
No.
don't have to make out with each other. They're two attractive women who are also very funny and look like they're having a great time. Now,
Yes.
you telling me about these Barbie and Kendra movies makes me want to stop this recording and go watch those and talk about those movies, because that sounds really interesting. Are they like the first one? Is it any good? I mean,
It's
do
funny.
Barbie
It's
and
actually
Kendra kind of like help the rest of this crappy production be worthwhile?
kind of. I mean, they don't really interact with the footage. It's like the footage from the original film is like what's going on elsewhere, while Barbie and Kendra talk on the phone about what's going on with, and news updates. And they show in the news updates, they show footage from like the soldiers in that. We did a running commentary for my Patreon. Actually, my friend Chase Lee and we fired it up, and he had never watched it before. He normally doesn't quite do B movies until I call him up and go, hey, you want to do a commentary on this film? He's like, yeah, sure. Let me work it out with my wife, and I'll get some, my favorite beverage, and we'll sit and watch and talk about crappy movies. And, it was actually entertaining. It had some entertainment value to it. Especially when I found out that it was, the footage he was using was from an actual film and they were just redubbing it. And it was entertaining. I mean, it's more entertaining than most of the Evil Bong films, let's put it that way, because they're just different, in a good way. And the cut scenes with Barbie and Kendra talking are very entertaining as well. So so when they showed up in here, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I mean, we've seen the rednecks before, and the three ladies we had not seen before, the ones that all took their top off because they had the weed laced beans and it made them hot and horny, and they were supposedly influencers who were taking Instagram pictures topless, so their accounts got disabled. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I'm sure they made a killing on OnlyFans. But here's the thing, like, what killed that for me though was the Tiger King guy, John Reinke, because I paused the movie because when he comes in, he has all the presence of like an athlete doing a commercial. Just he's not acting, and he's also not talking like anybody natural. It's I can't quite pinpoint what that is, but I paused it. I'm like, who is this guy? Is he an actor? Because they're talking about like racing cars. I'm like, oh, maybe he's a NASCAR figure, but no, it turns out he was in Tiger King. And I'm like, okay, I've missed some context somewhere else. So they make reference to other movies, which I'm sure you've just described to me.
Yes.
And they ditch on the bill by teleporting out of the restaurant, which is kind of weird and funny, but wow.
Yeah. It's interesting for those two show up, and he does it you're fully right though, actually, as horrible as the dialogue is and as just nonsensical as this film is, it is clipping along nicely until he shows up, because everybody else is acting over exaggerated or whatever as characters, and then he shows up and he's reading his lines, and you can tell he's this is a real person that they've brought into Hollywood world, and he's talking to actors acting as exaggerated characters, yet he's not. And so it is such a weird dynamic, and bless them, Kendra and Barbie make the most of it. This guy's got the screen charisma of cardboard, but they managed to make it interesting and talk about, the guy's real life stuff, like how he does actually race car in it. And,
he's missing one or two legs, right?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And that's one thing I got to say is they handled his part at least with respect, in that he's a real person and they're talking about his real life. And the way Barbie and Kendra do it, I'm sitting there going, yeah, I would watch just a Barbie and Kendra show where they have real people on and they interview them, because that was the interesting part. Even though he had no acting charisma, they kept things interesting with their bubbly personality and such. And it is the highlight of this when they show up, when these two show up, that it kind of breaks a little bit from your normal Evil Bong thing. And this has the same runtime as Evil Bong 420, but not as many offensive jokes as Evil Bong 420. That was the one with the bowling alley. That
Right.
one was not barely an hour, and that one had a lot more offensive jokes and product placement where he was trying to
Oh,
sell
yeah.
dolls.
I remember that. Yeah, Evil Bong 888 is 59 minutes long.
Yes.
But here's the thing. I do want to go back and
Mhm.
say that, Robin, she and her friend, what's her friend's name?
Cody, Renee,
Cody.
Cameron. Yeah,
Okay.
Cody.
They're great. But
Mhm.
before that, there are two other actresses in here that I thought really made a good impression with their acting and also the characters they play, because there's some kind of, I guess it's sort of sharp-ish writing, or as sharp as you're going to get with this movie, but it's the waitresses,
Oh yeah,
played by Bree Essrig and
Whitney
Whitney
Moore.
Moore, which is
Mhm.
weird because they actually are given character names in the movie, but on IMDb they're just listed as waitress
Waitress.
and waitress. And then there's IMDb is so weird. Like, you go down and there's another person, a really nice, smiling, attractive young lady named Noelle Ann Mabry, and it says just as crack whore. And I'm like, oh.
I always love those titles. I always love those titles. Yeah, and you may recognize Whitney Moore from the epic two films, Birdemic and Birdemic 2.
I never
So,
finished Birdemic.
oh,
I own the Blu-ray. Yeah.
Really? I don't own the Blu-ray. I've got the DVD. The Blu-ray just makes the animated GIFs look more animated GIF-ish,
Yeah.
I think. They're just animated GIFs composited.
Right.
But
it's still more entertaining than Evil Bong 8, I would say.
But if you don't count Christina Sin, who is an adult actress, and her filmography, Whitney Moore actually has quite an extensive filmography of independent films, both big and small. She was in, I think, Satanic Panic as well, which was a fun movie. But yeah, she was mostly from Birdemics is where I recognized her from initially.
Well, because they're both redheaded waitresses. They're
Mhm.
both attractive. They're both, young. And when we meet them, Rabbit is showing Tom Atkins around the restaurant, and and here's the rest of the staff, and it's these two waitresses sitting at a table, just like looking at their phones,
They're
and
texting each other.
they're texting each other instead of having a conversation. And then, like, they're just like the classic kind of like ditzy LA chick kind of thing, but they don't realize that other people think that they're stupid,
Right.
and they're not in on the joke. But it's just kind of fun. Like, when they have the rehearsal for the opening, they bring out the platter of beanie weenies,
Yes.
and the one girl is like, she's holding it, and she's like, wait, I think we're supposed to put this down, like, on the table. And then there's a giant silver dome on the top, and Rabbit says top off, and then the one starts
taking her top
her
off.
top.
Yeah.
Like, oh god.
I know there's fits and spurts in this film that show a little glimmer of actual, like, fun kind of hijinks like you might expect for a film like this. And unfortunately, it's few and far between.
Well, but here's the thing, and it struck me. First of all, Sonny Carl Davis has been a staple of this series for several entries now.
He is Rabbit. He's been Rabbit since the beginning. So,
and this is nothing against him, but he looks so old in this movie that he looks like a cross between Joe Biden and the preacher from Poltergeist 2, with about as much energy.
And he gets his creep on too throughout this entire thing, always wanting to grab someone's breasts.
Yes, and and I guess it's a credit to Charles Band and or Diana Prince that the Tom Atkins character is constantly, rebuking him.
Yeah,
because it's a strange. I don't know who this movie is made for, or what kind of attitude it's supposed to engender or encourage, but the whole idea of the lecherous old man, like, making overt lewd gestures and propositioning young women, and like constantly going with his hands out like he's going to grab boobs.
yes.
I don't want to get on my like Me Too soapbox or anything, but this just feels like it would have been inappropriate 6 years ago, let alone 2022.
Well, that's the thing. They're playing off of it is that inappropriate. The only difference I would say between older versions of this type of film, and today is the fact he never even gets to grab, whereas possibly in the older versions he would grab and you would just have the woman be like, like wait till he's done or whatnot, or just make some possibly unfortunately ditzy comment or something, or just deal with it or whatever. And in this case he never even gets close to whatever. And so that is a difference in here, is that at least they all recognize he's a person of the past and who he is, and they actually handle him with kid gloves, every female that he tries to grab, or whether, except for the one Karen, who he doesn't care for anyway.
Well, I mean, that's another great message. Like, oh, they're women are only worth molesting if they're hot. But no, but that's the weird thing is, again, the idea of not knowing, not so much who this is for, but what tone they're trying to strike, because he is such a gross caricature that I still feel like there's someone out there that Charles Band was trying to reach to say, hey, don't you see yourself in this guy who's literally like making lizard noises and tongue thing, like rabbit want to feel. I'm like,
rabbit want to
wow.
Feel. Rabbit want to grab
rabbit
it.
Want to grab it. That's the line, right?
Rabbit want to grab it.
But it's not funny. It's just so off-putting that, to me, like Tom Atkins, I wish the real Tom Atkins was in this movie, but Diana Prince, just making some joke at his expense isn't quite enough. I wish he'd gotten just like slapped around a bit or something. And I'm a pervert. I'm a lech as much as anybody else, but when it comes to my entertainment, I do have some sensitivities around this stuff. And I'm like, that combined with the whole like table full of influencers who end up like getting naked and then they're just topless for the rest of the film and
for the entire rest of the runtime,
giggling, taking pictures, making out with each other, or getting like fondled by other patrons. I'm like,
or flirting with Redder Necker.
Like what is this movie? This isn't even, pardon my French, but it's not even good jack off material.
I don't know. The tone is weird, because at least in the first one, with Rabbit trying to go legit, the film is literally called Evil Bong. And yes, they do work weed into the beads and weenies and the baguette thing, but it still doesn't, it doesn't have that stoner vibe, at least that the other ones had, that stayed throughout, because he's legit now and you're trying to avoid it, except for the last 15 minutes where he hits this emergency button he's been avoiding to hit. And it's the one, we mentioned Evil Bong 420. Well, we get the weed gun back from Evil Bong 420 because we haven't hit all the notes yet from this is like the Evil Bong No Way Home of sorts, in that except they only have Robin Sidney come back and she's not even playing the same character. About the only person you have come back is Darnell, which
it's Larnell, by the way.
Larnell, excuse me, I keep saying Darnell. It's Larnell.
Gotta get your continuity right when you're talking about the Evil Bong cinematic universe.
Sorry, it's Larnell. My apologies. So you're kind of not hitting the crowd who has followed all of these, including Ginger Dead Man, which I have as well. And I apologize to all that I am lacking. I did not watch the Ginger Weed Man and the second Ginger Weed Man movies, which are spin-offs from the Evil Bong series. I apologize.
This podcast is over. I can't have my expert confessing to not being an expert in the middle of the show.
My apologies. I'm
I
sorry.
Sense something was wrong, Mark. You're usually on point.
I know I'm off when usually I'm watching, but I because there's also Ouija's Weed G's, which is also, I think, within this universe, which I haven't watched yet. I watched one of those, I think, but the Ginger Weed Man I haven't seen yet. I haven't seen his films. So and we don't get them till the end, which was a surprise. We don't get Ginger Dead Man back or Ginger Weed Man till the end,
especially because don't they get like in the is it in the opening credits where they announce their voices or something, or is that
at the end? No, they put their voices in there, and I credit them for their voices in there. They get two lines total. And it's interesting because the ginger dead man was annihilated at one point. So how he's back, I missed that video. It might have been in the ginger weed man. I have to talk to Charles Band about that continuity, because his continuity is getting lacking there. For
Yeah, he's getting high off his own supply, and it's not cool.
I don't know. But back to the tone, yeah. So you don't have really the weed humor. I mean, you have them getting high off the beans and weenies, but that's about it. You don't really have the weed humor. You do have your exploitation nudity, but in all honesty, after the first couple minutes of the shocker of, oh, hey, they took their tops off, after a while, you don't even realize it doesn't even enter in that, oh, they're still naked after a while. They're just there. It's not even a thing. And your characters, you have the Charles Band stable of characters moving through the store, kind of like you had in 420. But they're not really around long enough. So I'm not sure who this is for, because the jokes kind of land, but not. It was just like full moon cameo city. And maybe if you follow the full universe and watch all the movies on streaming, you may appreciate this film more. But otherwise, that's the only person I could see this made for. Not even Evil Bong fans, but just fans of the Charles Moon universe, Charles Band universe, the full moon cinema.
Yeah, I mean, like evil. this is like the Moon Knight of the Evil Bong movies, because EB is in this 59-minute movie for all of like maybe 4 minutes of screen time combined. She pops up, well, okay, maybe 7 minutes, because there's
Maybe
like one scene where she's arguing back and forth with the
Yeah.
chef extensively, or a couple of scenes, and it's a
Mhm.
German chef and all this other nonsense. But you're right, like she was much more a part of these other films, and this movie really is about Rabbit trying to go legit. There's a funny gag where, with the beanie weenies and the French baguette, they like write almost in crayon over the fancy laminated menu. It's like the number one is weenie beanies and the other one is beanie weenies. And then you get a couple of interesting shots of people like poring over the menu, like, I don't know which one I should get.
Mhm.
And that's kind of fun. I did love the Karen customer.
Yes. She's the one from Baby Oopsie, apparently.
Is it the same character or just the actress?
No, same character. Well, she's listed as Self, and she's listed as Self in the Baby Oopsie movie. So I don't know.
Baby Oopsie?
Baby Oopsie is is a Charles Band film. Oh no, she does play someone else, I'm sorry, in the Baby Oopsie film, which is about Sybil Pittman, who is a meek and mild-mannered doll collector whose only joy in life is restoring old dolls. Harassed by local kids, co-workers, and her abusive stepmother, she finds her demoralizing life take a murderous turn with the arrival of a mysterious Baby Oopsie doll. So basically, it's Charles Band's Chucky.
Oh.
Yeah, so she plays a different person there. I'm sorry, she doesn't play herself in that one. She plays, and she was in Ouija's Halloween Night. But yeah, she plays Sybil in both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of Baby Oopsie.
Well, I liked her character because, again, this gets into some of the writing plus the performance, because she and Rabbit don't get along. It's the opening night, and she comes in just like as a difficult customer. He doesn't refer to her as a Karen until like the very end.
Yeah.
When he's pulling out the weed gun shot. That was an amazing amount of restraint for this movie. But it's just this, she's the cartoonishly impossible patron, and it works. It was like, she was like complaining about the topless girls the next table over. She's like, I bring my son to this establishment all the time, and I will not have him looking at this. And Rabbit's like, ma'am, it's only opening night. And she's like, are you attacking my family?
Yeah, he's like, your kid's not even here, because she says, I don't want my boy seeing that. And he's like, you don't have a kid here. I mean, she hit every Karen trope and line you could think of and delivered them very naturally. Outside of Robin Sidney, I will say Libby Higgins, who is the character and the person. I thought, yeah, she nailed that well as the Karen, and she she really sold that and pretty much said every Karen line you've ever run into if you've ever been in customer service. I'm like, yep, I've heard that one and that one and that one. And yep, she's at one point gets the cops at the end because Rabbit poured a beverage on her, and she said it was assault. And so she calls these cops who decide to arrest Rabbit, which I'm like, yeah, okay, come on now. They would not arrest him over pouring, spilling, like maybe fine him, but not arrest him for spilling a beverage on her. Maybe.
They might, because I believe, well, it depends on what the law is in California, but that is assault. I mean, you can't,
I guess that is true. That is considered assault, but they do have the beans and weenies bowl, and they actually get transported at the end along with everybody else, including the topless influencers, to Weed World, or what is it, Weed Heaven, or I forgot what it was called, but yeah, where we initially started it all with EB and the flying boobs.
We also get a cameo from Sexy Hell, which
we do get a
visited,
cameo
from
Sexy Hell
in version 666, which was
Yes.
nice because you get to see the giant glowing vagina
portal
open up in the middle of the restaurant, and a hand reach through and steal one of the plates of beanie weenies, and then it zips up with a nice little queef as the portal disappears.
Yes.
Again, like, some of this stuff is genuinely funny because it's just kind of like out of left field, like, oh, I remember that.
Mhm.
But then there's other times when I'm like, can we just ditch this whole Evil Bong thing and just have Charles Band and Mr. Roadbush come up with a workplace comedy set in a restaurant, kind of like Waiting. Remember that Ryan Reynolds movie?
Yeah.
Because I think it when you take out the overtly cartoonish people like the rednecks and the ghosts, and you just deal with the regular people that you'd probably run into in like an LA restaurant,
Mhm.
especially one that's like opening up across the street from Gucci somehow.
Yeah.
That stuff works, but it's like 10 minutes out of this. Yeah, I know why they call it Infinity High, because it just goes on forever.
It does. I actually would be interested, and with the sheer volume of characters, and he's always doing crossovers in nearly every one of his films. Sorry, MCU, he has more crossovers than you do, because he's been doing this a lot longer.
I'm sure Kevin Feige is crying right now.
Kevin Feige was influenced by the Full Moon pictures. What are you talking about? Full Moon and Trauma, their connected universe. He was influenced by that. So there you go.
I feel like he was probably smoking a lot of weed when he greenlit Doctor Strange too.
Well, yeah, but thank God for that. We got an interesting Marvel film. But anyway, at least interesting to me.
Three times, Mark. Three times you saw this in the theater.
At least. Yeah.
Wow.
Wait till it comes to streaming. I'm going to see it again. Just
I'll
because.
see it in streaming at the bottom of my toilet.
Freaking Demon Cape, baby. I love it. Anyway, back to this. I would love to see Charles Band, and he could do it. And I think it would be interesting, especially for his streaming service. You do a half hour, not have to do an hour, but a half hour Full Moon Cafe or something to that effect, to where he has Rabbit or whatever, still trying to run a legitimate business. And you have your cast of characters come through from your other Full Moon pictures at some point, and, just have it play out like that. You could do a few episodes of that, I think, for your fans, at least of the streaming service. And, I think it would work. Not an hour, because like you said, yeah, this went on. You're like, okay, we got all the gags. Where are we going from here? And it's like, oh, we'll get the weed gun.
Well, and that's the thing is, I mean, these haven't really been movies for a long time, but I remember back in the early days, these were actual, somewhat kind of movies. 1 through 3,
for sure, actually had a beginning, middle, and end plot. They had a story drive, regardless of how wafer thin the story was, but you had your characters moving through some kind of plot and happening, and a start finish, and you had antagonists and protagonists, and you had the whole 9 yards. And then 420 happened, and they crossed paths with the Ginger Dead Man series, and then it just kind of been skit shows.
And I wonder, is part of this, and maybe this is the reason they're closing up shop, weed is legal now. I mean, there are stoners and everything, but I feel like half the appeal of something like Evil Bong is it's, you know, kind of this clandestine, it's against the law, so it's kind of like a subversive entertainment. And oh, we're gonna make a movie about it, Evil Bong, isn't that so, you know, cool and weird and rebellious? And now it's just like, yeah, I'm just seeing this bad clay
But
monster, and she's barely in the movie.
well, I mean, let's look at it the other way too. At least two of their films, 5 and yeah, 6. Well, yeah, 3 and 5, because 4 took place in the bowling alley, were about Larnell and the company of characters opening up a pipe shop that doubled as secretly as a weed shop, but it
Right.
wasn't, they couldn't actually sell weed because it wasn't legal. So you're right, there was a bit of a subversive thing. There was at least a little bit of a underground thing going on, to where they could play the gimmick of, oh, we're just selling pipes, and then they secretly are selling weed, or EB would, you know, secretly influence them with her weed magic or whatever. And you're right, it adds at least some little level because it wasn't quite legal. So at least you got some of that underground type of feel with the story and our characters doing something they shouldn't be doing. But yeah, once weed gets legal, you can't play that. Oh, you opened up a weed shop. Okay. People come in and buy weed, you know, it's like, whereas before people were buying the pipe, the decorative pipe, and, you know, hey man, you got some weed, you know, something along that lines. And
Right, but I mean, like that's the thing, and not that Charles Band or Mr. Roadbush care. It's obvious from the results of these last few movies that they don't. They're just putting out something because it's kind of like, if it's Halloween, it's Saw. You know, it's just something that comes out every year. But if they wanted to bring this thing to a close, they could have actually said something about, you
right.
know, that transition between this, you know, underground kind of fascination to something that's gone so mainstream that they have weed dispensaries everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
what if they bring back Larnell and he's finally got his weed shop open, but then he's in danger of going out of business because, like, there's a weed shop on every corner, like
There-
Walgreens or CVS.
There's a commercial weed shop that's trying to take over the independent weed shop scene.
Make it like Empire Records, but with head
Yeah.
shops.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting excited thinking about this.
Well, I mean, that thing too is like, Rabbit in this day and age, Rabbit could legit open a weed shop in LA. You know, he didn't have to do it as a cafe. He could do it as a legit weed shop because, like you said, weed's legal now, recreational weed in California. It's like, so you lose that angle that at least gives it a little bit of character, a little bit of subversiveness to it, to now where we just have a lecherous guy running a restaurant. And, you know, some people look like they are there to collect their check, and others are having fun, like Kendra and Barbie. And in the end, you're left with okay, that's how you end your Evil Bong 10 movies, if you count the Ginger Dead Man films, or 8 or 12, you know, your 10 movie, that's how you end it. Oh, EB just gets fed up and transports everybody, even people who weren't in the original film at all. We just have Larnell and Rabbit are the only two originals from the original film, transported and trapped back in weed world forever. And that's how it, you know, that's how it ended. But it ended so anticlimactic. I'm like, really?
Right. They're just literally, it's like the end of Saturday Night Live every week, where they're just on stage, like kind of like looking around and, you know,
who should I
credits
hug,
rolling.
or can I hug you, or I'll kind of hug you, or you know what, I'll just stare at you and you can just stare at me, and we'll have the jazz play. Yeah, so it was really weird, because you hear this is going to be the final chapter in the Evil Bong, and so you are kind of expecting the way this entire series goes. And I'm not saying it's a good series, don't get me wrong, I've just, having watched them all, you would have thought that you would have gone with something just completely outrageous and out there, and maybe nonsensical, but just throwing everything in the kitchen sink from previous movies into this one. Like I said, I joked, but almost like a No Way Home of the Evil Bong series, to where you just have everybody show up, you know, But I'm wondering if he had trouble finding people that, hey, you want to come back for one more Evil Bong film? Yeah, I got a thing I gotta be
I got
at.
I got
I got
COVID.
I got sorry, COVID. I can't, it's hard to say because for what they were talking about this film being, it surprised me that it ends on a fairly lackluster note, which again, for Evil Bong, Charles Band, Full Moon, you're expecting even more debauchery and just offensiveness and everything. And in all honesty, this comes off a bit. Yes, and I know we talked about topless trio behind the table and the waitresses making out, but in general, for these films, it comes off tame.
Well, I think that's part of the problem is like it's not offensiveness to really call attention to itself, but it's also not, funny or titillating enough beyond like, hey, look, boobs.
Pretty much that's the summary. I think that really is the plot summary that they should have on IMDb. Is just like, hey, look, boobs. that's it. I mean,
that'll be Evil Bong 9.
That'll be Evil Bong 9. Just boobs. That's all it is. It'd just be boobs.
Evil Bong 9 will be Evil Bong NIEN. Evil Bong 9. Like just 9. like they've had, the Puppet Master dolls fighting Nazis. They're gonna have EB like travel back in time to fight Nazis.
Evil Bong versus Puppet Master. Hitler. Oh, we didn't have that yet. Evil Bong versus Puppet Master.
That's how they're going to get out of it. This isn't the last Evil Bong movie. It's the last proper Evil Bong movie.
It's the last Evil Bong movie called Evil Bong. The Evil Bong characters, I am sure, because it is Charles Band and is the Full Moon cinematic universe, and they have crossovers nearly every other film, you will see these characters probably pop up in other films going forward. Just may not have a film actually called Evil Bong anymore because the stoner film has finally played out, buddy. Anyway.
But like one of my biggest gripes about this, and not that I would recommend the Evil Bong movies past like you said, part 3 probably, but yeah, I feel like each of these, especially when you get to movie 8, should be some kind of an advertisement for parts 1 through 7. If you're coming into this cold and like, oh, I'm going to watch this stoner comedy, Evil Bong 8. Wow, that sounds crazy, man. You watch it and you're just confused and bored, and maybe you'll have good enough weed to get you through it. But is there this isn't a calling card to say, man, I have to know what happened in parts 1 through 7.
Well, no, because you barely have, like I said, you barely have any characters that are recognizable from the other films outside of EB, who Michelle Mais, bless her, I love her EB character. I could just listen to her do dialogue all day and spout off things to people because she does it so well. She's sometimes the thing that gets me through these films is just when you get EB talking and just insulting the crap out of everybody and not caring what she's saying about them. This is a film, though, that you look at it, you barely have any of the original characters. You do have your cast of cameos from Full Moon, but there's nothing in this film. If you removed Evil Bong, outside of having EB in it, if you removed the title Evil Bong, you could have called this just about anything because
that's so what I'm saying. Like, I love your idea of doing like a half hour, maybe a 20-minute webisode series of, rabbits, Le Lapin Haute, the High Rabbit, this cheesy French restaurant with like crazy patrons wandering through. I think that's actually a pretty fun idea, because that's what you want to do with these legacy. Oh God, I just call them legacy characters as if there's some highfalutin thing, but they don't belong just in this hodgepodge of a nonsensical movie. They belong in like little snippets other places.
Yeah, they do. And it's just, we had mentioned 777 had kind of redeemed itself from 666 a bit. There was some entertaining value in it, and like they took 2 steps back, not literally, but just not just because this is more like 420, but it still is like they took 2 steps back from where they were kind of going with the film, because 777 made just before the pandemic had a bit more production value. They had some locations, they had some things going on that were it fell back to actually kind of being a story. Like the first three was 777. There was actually kind of a story with it, more so than with this one, and then with more so than a couple of the previous Evil Bong films.
Now, here's the other problem, Mark, is as has happened since we started talking about these movies, I still have no recollection of the previous movie. Or the one
Really?
before that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know that I watched them and that we talked about them, but I couldn't tell you what was in it except probably
Well,
Robin and Sydney in some kind of a
well,
crazy outfit.
well, that's where the ghost bellhops came from, was from
Okay.
Evil Bong 777, because it was a haunted hotel that they were staying in, a casino in Vegas. So that's what was that one? 666 had Sexy Hell.
I remember that, the
So
little
with
demon,
devil,
little
yeah,
devil. Yeah.
and that's where a ginger dead man got like just totally destroyed. So
However, how you remember these things, I might just be getting old or have some kind of like a Videodrome style brain tumor, but yeah, my memory is nothing. But Mark, I think we can end it here
oh yeah,
because we're running the risk of having a podcast that's almost as long as the movie.
show. Yeah,
Yikes.
oh, I get it.
But not that I don't enjoy talking to you, but we got to put this thing to bed, and we will be back in a year or 2 or 10 talking about Evil Bong 9, because it's going to happen. I don't care what they call it, it's going to be Evil Bong 9.
The ninth gate or something. I don't know. Evil Bong, the ninth gate.
No, they're going to go full MCU and they're going to call it Evil Bong Phase 9.
Phase 9. There you go. Right now, Phase 4 is kind of Phase 9. Like, no, like what the hell? Anyway,
well, I won't be around to find out.
I know you won't. Hey, but they
guns.
improved. Come on, even the improved CGI on She-Hulk is not going to bring you back.
I'm just gonna let that sit there, Mark. Mark, where can people find you?
SpecialMarkProductions.com for all your movie man needs. You can usually go there. I've got a link tree as well under Special Mark Productions, but if you go to our website, we got a link to our TikTok, our Patreon, our YouTube channel. We got the podcast there, interviews, which I've got an interview coming up this week with the director and creator of Ed Gein the Musical, Dan Davies. So we've got that interview coming up, and next week, well, the week after, like a week from today when we're recording it, I'll be interviewing filmmaker Tony Walsh he's done a number of Hollywood films and such, and we're catching up. He did High on the Hog, which was an indie film with Sid Haig, one of the last Sid Haig films. He's done The Rake, which is an interesting film and had some interesting history, which he couldn't talk about, but we got a cinematographer to talk about the history behind that film, behind what the original cut was and what was released. So that was an interesting story. But yeah, that's where you can find our stuff. Again, TikTok and all that under Special Mark Productions. If you search that, you can find us pretty much everywhere, Facebook and all that good stuff, but all from that website. So
I'm offended. You didn't mention Tuesday nights live every Tuesday. The spoiler room.
Yeah, you're right. I apologize. I'm horrible at self-shilling, but yes, Tuesday nights live. We do a live recording of the spoiler room, and if you miss it there, you can always catch the audio recording later in the week. Ian is usually there with me, as well as one or two other folks. Sometimes we've got a panel where we're talking films, and you can catch the schedule of the live show on specialmarkproductions.com, as well as our Facebook page. And that's where I've got the two schedules posted, are on our Facebook page, the spoiler room page, or the website. It's right up on front there. It tells you when the live broadcasts are. There usually you can catch them on YouTube or Facebook if you belong to our Facebook, or Twitch at specialmarkproductions.com. I've got a Twitch channel as well where I occasionally play games and show that I can't play a modern game anymore. Tried to fire up Fortnite the other night and it failed miserably, so I switched back to firing up the old PS2 and playing some Yu-Gi-Oh. So you never know what's going to show up on the Twitch channel. So,
well, cool. And folks out there, the Tuesday night live streams we do are one of the highlights of my week, and I can't recommend enough going over and subscribing to Mark's Patreon, because you do get the half hour before we go live. Whoever's on the line, we record like a half hour intro where not an intro, but just like kind of BSing and talking about whatever's on our mind, from movies to
computers,
culture and computers and
to
stuff
weather.
like that. To weather, yes,
yeah.
very exciting stuff. But yeah, it's a whole show into of itself. It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
You keep having me back every week. I love it.
Yeah, well, yeah, you keep wanting to come back. That's fine. I'm always happy to have you in the spoiler room. And yeah, our conversations are interesting. You can even hear us go back and forth a bit on like films like the Batman and Doctor Strange, which we tend to disagree on. But it shows, folks, it's the internet, and you can have differing opinions and still have a really great time with that individual, even if you don't always agree, because what fun is that? Is everybody's always agreeing? I mean, it's
the way I pick my friends, Mark.
Wow, I hate your opinions. Let's be friends. No, which I'm honored. Thank you. But I'm honored to be on the show. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to talk Evil Bong. I don't know how I became an Evil Bong expert on these films, but for some reason I am. I got to do my twice baked episode on this, the final one. Well, unless you count
final one.
Unless you count Ginger Weed Man, I got to do the 2 Ginger Weed Man movies. I guess I should go back and review those as part of my twice baked series. So I don't know.
Well, let me know if you need some support, some comfort, someone to walk you back from that ledge, because I hate to see you go down that path.
Some weed, there you go.
Not me. I'm wearing the green shirt, but that's about as far as I go in terms of my drug knowledge.
Fair enough.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Have a great night. And yeah, we will be back talking whatever the next incarnation of Evil Bong is.
There will be one.
We got problems. All right, man.
I got issues. Got a subscription. That's what I got.
An addiction is more like it.
There's that too.
Evil Bong is a gateway drug to talking about terrible movies all the time.
There you go.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You too.
Bye.